Welcome to the Choice Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Nastasha McKeon, founder and CEO of Choice Juicery, author of Plant Food is Medicine, and naturally a health, wellness, and mindfulness enthusiast. I believe that happiness is a choice, and I built my company upon this ethos. This show is a platform where we will discuss all things health, wellness, and mindfulness in hopes of inspiring you further on your journey. We will be sharing inspiring stories, health, wellness, and mindfulness hacks, as well as anything else pertaining to living your best choice life. My hope is that you may hear something on every episode of this podcast that will genuinely be of value in your life. Welcome back to the Choice Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Nastasha McKeon, founder and CEO of Choice Juicery and author of Plant Food is Medicine. Today's episode, as well as every other episode, is sponsored by Choice. So if you want to support this show, and I hope you do, you can do so by visiting us online at choicejuicery.com and shopping our online store where we are shipping all kinds of amazing products all over the nation. Everything from our gluten-free bread, which is the best bread on the market. And don't just take it from me, you can see the reviews online. But we also have our Power Greens, which is a comprehensive daily greens powder with prebiotics and protein all in one scoop. And it's pretty amazing as well. Of course, I am a little biased, but you can read those reviews. And we're also shipping our superfood protein powder, our elixir line, our nut butters. We have so many amazing products on there. My own cookbook is on there, Plant Food is Medicine. So please do pop online and do some shopping and support the show while you're at it. Also, if you're lucky enough to live down here in Southern California, we have a bunch of locations down here, and we hope to see you in the shops as well. Today's guest is my friend June Ann, who is the visionary and founder of the group. The group is a community that was born from the triumphs and trials of June's own entrepreneurial journey. As a seasoned entrepreneur, June understands the personal and professional challenges that can often feel overwhelming. I understand that myself. His journey has taken him through moments of helplessness and hopelessness, which fuel his passion to create a space where others don't have to navigate these challenges alone. June founded the group with a clear mission to empower individuals to overcome obstacles and pursue their dreams with renewed hope and determination. The group is more than just a community. It's a place where dreams are nurtured, resilience is strengthened, and people come together to achieve their full potential, both personally and professionally. June has such an inspiring story from overcoming a very challenging childhood, of course, navigating through the entrepreneurial world as a serial entrepreneur, and of course, what ultimately led him to founding the group, which really truly is an incredible organization where people come together and learn and grow together and support each other in business and build just great community. And so I'm excited to get June on here and have him share his story and see what we can learn from him. What's up, June? Thank you so much for coming on the Choice Lifestyle Podcast today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I am really excited to get right into your story. I know when we met, I think it was the second time I met you, you kind of opened up a little bit about your challenging childhood. And I feel like you and I have some similarities there in our stories in terms of just like the difficulties that we went through and had to grow through in life. And I really want to just like start there, if that's okay. Just dive right into your story from the beginning.
Sure. And again, as I said before, I'd rather hear your story. I lived it, so to me, it's not that interesting. Yeah, it's a lot of times, I tell people, and I kind of wonder if they actually believe me.
I hear you on that. I get that a lot too. I have that similar feeling, when you've been through some crazy stuff that people don't really connect with or relate to. It sometimes feels like this must be unbelievable, like normal people that haven't lived through crazy stuff.
Right.
But you're in good company because I've lived through crazy stuff. So let's hear it.
That's why we're friends.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if I were to start, I would probably start from when I was born. My parents were from South Korea, and they fought in the Vietnam War, and they got visas to come to the U.S. So it was one of those things where they had to make a choice, and to make a better life, they decided to come to the U.S., picked El Paso, Texas. I'm not sure why they picked El Paso, Texas. It's absolutely random. But I was born there. But as soon as I was born, it really kind of started my whole story, because as soon as I was born there, my mother took off in the hospital. She just kind of took off. And then My father, he didn't speak English, but what he did know was construction. So he worked at a construction site, and he had to ask a random foreman and said, "Hey, do you know anybody that can watch my son? He was just born in the hospital." So, the luckily the foreman's wife, that's what she did. So the wife ended up watching me. She was a beautiful Hispanic, lady. The family was amazing. My first 2 weeks of my life, I was raised with that family.
Wow, that's wild. Did you ever know why your mom left from the hospital and you like what was that about? Why did she take off and leave you to your dad?
Yeah, it was, and the thing is that I have no ill will towards either of them. I mean,
Yeah,
again, they came
nice.
from South Korea, which was a third world country. They're just trying to navigate this new land where they didn't speak the language. My mother was a surgical nurse, and the nursing degree didn't transfer over. So she came here really without having ability to really to work. And my father just was the only thing he knew was construction. So for the longest time, I had no idea why my mother left, just because my
Wow.
father told me different stories. But I come to find out it's because my father, who was a narcissist, was very abusive. He was abusing her as well. And so
Wow.
for her safety and my safety, she just took off.
Wow. That's wild. Okay, so you're a newborn baby. Dad's got this newborn child. He hands this newborn child off to this sweet woman who's like, "Yeah, I can do this." And she just starts taking care of this newborn baby while your dad goes off to essentially start what I think later became kind of like a construction empire, right? Like, didn't he kind of build something big in that space, or what did he end up
Right.
doing?
Yeah. So he did that for like 2.5 weeks. And, he figured out that he's like, I don't know how I can do this. I don't know how I can go home, take care of my son, and still work during the day and still make a living. So he actually asked the foreman, he's like, "Hey, can you watch him a little longer? I'm actually going to leave. I'm going to go find work in other states to see if I can kind of, fulfill that American dream." The foreman, he agreed. His name was Raul, and he agreed. What he didn't realize is my father was going to take off for 6 years. So he left for
Wow.
6 years. So I was raised by this amazing family for 6 years of my life.
That is crazy. So I didn't realize when I knew that this family had taken you on, I don't think that I realized that when they said yes, that they didn't know what they were saying yes to. They didn't realize it was going to be a
Yeah.
6 year commitment. So he takes off, he goes to find work, and you're with his family for 6 years, who essentially, I mean, at that age, you don't really have early childhood memories. So for all you knew, this is your family, right? I mean, you're growing up with them. This is who raised you.
Yeah.
This is who you
That
built your
that's
bonds with. And then one
yeah.
day,
I always joke around. I thought I was Mexican.
oh my gosh. Okay. So one day your dad shows up. And how does that go? Like, what happens when he comes back? You're 6 years old at this point?
Well, yeah, and it was interesting because they never really told me about him. So I grew up within this Hispanic family, doing all the parties, all the Christmases, days, the quinceañeras, everything like that. And my first language was Spanish, so they never really told me about him. I knew I was always different. I didn't know why though. And then all of a sudden, this Asian guy comes, and it was traumatic because I thought I was being kidnapped, and they said, "No, you have to go with him." And so he just came and got me, and he wasn't delicate about it. He's like, you're coming with me. And he spoke Spanish because he worked on a construction site, and he just took me.
Wow. I mean, that alone, I mean, there's so much to unpack there from maternal abandonment in the hospital before an age that you even have formed memories. And those are kind of difficult wounds to work on, right? Because we don't even remember them, but they impacted us on a deep subconscious level. So you've
Right.
got like this deep abandonment wound from the maternal side. Then dad leaves you with strangers. And then those strangers become family. And then dad shows up, who's now a stranger, and takes you away from the only family you've ever known. Like, that's a lot to unpack. That's a lot.
Yeah. It's interesting because it was such a long time ago, but I still remember. I remember the feeling of being
Oh.
taken, and I do remember like being in that household. I remember it was just a loving family.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about, remembering the feelings, because we have a lot of similar, um I don't want to say like similar story, but like a lot of like similar emotions and similar experiences in our stories. And so when you say things like that, I'm like, I know what you're talking about. I was kidnapped by an aunt. My mom was in a real rough way often throughout my childhood, wasn't well. And so different family members would come in and try to like do these interventions and take the kids and get us out of like a really bad situation. My mom was really the only family I knew. So when my aunt came in and she kidnapped me, and then she handed me off to my father, who I was estranged from, hadn't seen in years. I like that feeling of being taken from what I knew, even though it was a crazy situation I was in, it was still what I knew for me. And that
Wow.
feeling of going to a stranger who's at the time he felt like a stranger. I didn't have a relationship or a connection to him. And then being torn away from that and being placed with this person, it was just such a, I don't know how many people experience those kinds of things in childhood, but I feel like they're kind of rare. So yeah, I can relate to
Right.
that. I know that feeling of that, like being taken away. And that happened a lot in my childhood, like going from one place to the next place, and just that feeling of longing and missing, and the discomfort of being in this new environment that feels
Right.
foreign to me. I can't fully appreciate what you went through, but there are some similarities. So I have a lot of empathy for that experience for sure. Okay, so what happens next?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I distinctly remember this. My father, he came and got me, and what he did was he was able to build a construction company in Arizona, and he got the IBM contract. The
Wow.
funny thing was that he wasn't educated at all. He actually, because back then they didn't have computers, so they could never check. He lied and said he was a general contractor and he built this construction company, got a payment, a deposit from IBM, which is enough to get me build this construction company and hire employees. So he was very entrepreneurial. He figured it out.
Wow.
But the interesting thing was, as soon as we got to Tucson, we stopped off at the airport, and again, he spoke Spanish, but I was scared of him. I had no idea who he was. I was devastated that I got taken away from, what I thought my childhood was. And we go to the airport, and I see he points and he's like, "Look over there." And I see this older, chubby Asian kid coming out of the plane. And I'm like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "That's your brother." So I had no idea I had a brother. They
Wow.
had him first and had him and left him with my grandmother in Korea, and then came to El Paso to have me. So it was like shock after shock.
Wow. So literally on your way, coming from being with that family, you guys stop off at the airport and you meet your brother that you didn't know existed?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was, and he only spoke Korean. He only spoke Korean. I only spoke Spanish. So it was such a interesting dynamic of this Asian kid that only spoke Korean, this other Asian kid that thought he was Mexican that only spoke Spanish. So
Oh
it was an
my
interesting
God.
dynamic.
Wow. And then so your dad's like talking to you in Spanish and speaking to him in Korean. You guys don't understand each other, obviously, out the gate. Was he as confused as you were? Like, did anyone fill him in on what had been going on and what the plan was? Or did he come in just as shocked as you to the experience of like, oh, I have a brother. Oh, I have this dad who's been building this construction company out here. And did he have awareness or knowledge of any of this?
No. And my brother and I talk about this all the time. So my grandmother actually dropped him off at the airport. My father had gotten him a ticket, got the ticket, and he just boarded the plane all by himself. So think it's a 13-hour flight from South Korea. He's coming to a country he doesn't know, to a person he doesn't know. And he doesn't speak English, and he's
Wow.
just randomly put in a seat on a plane. So he was pretty traumatized. I mean, we talk about it today. I mean, he still deals with some of the kind of that trauma from then.
Of course. How could you not? I mean, gosh, it's so crazy. What a different world too it was then versus today. Like the things that I feel like parents got away with back in the day are so different
Yeah.
than the things that parents get away with today. I feel like we've had
Oh
an
yeah.
evolution in parenting in a lot of ways. Kids were kind of like, you were meant to be seen and not heard. You were on a need to know basis. You weren't really treated like somebody who had any rights or any say. Your opinion didn't matter,
Right.
whereas I feel like today, it's just so different. At least I'm very different with my kids, that's for sure. But I see that, in society as a whole,
Right.
I feel like kids are more kind of, they're communicated with more. We're more sensitive to emotions and the impact of the things that we do and how they impact them later in life. And so I feel like we've grown a lot. I like to think we have, anyways. That's wild.
Oh yeah, no,
Okay.
you're absolutely right. I think it's one of those things. Back then, you just figure out I mean, especially coming to a new country, they just trying to figure out how to survive. They weren't even thinking about or he wasn't thinking about the proper way to raise children. He was just like, I need to make a living.
Totally. And I think that also is a byproduct when you're in survival mode, even in families today, like when people are operating out of survival, the way that they show up in the world, the way they show up to their families, the way they show up to the community are so different than when you're operating out of a place of I'm safe, I'm provided for. Who you are when you're in that place versus who you are when you're just like not sure how you're going to keep the lights on and keep food in your kids' bellies. It's just a different way of operating. It's operating from a different operating system. And yeah, I think a lot of pain is caused when people are operating out of that place for sure.
No, right. Yeah, absolutely. And then my father, he's He's 88, so he's definitely old school, came from a third world country. So again, he was just trying to navigate. He was never given the tools.
What's next?
Oh, okay. So right away, work. I mean, I'm 6 years old, and he's definitely an entrepreneur. He had the construction company, he had a maintenance company, a janitorial company, a dry cleaner, a couple dry cleaners, restaurants, and I just worked at every location. And it's interesting to see because I literally I picked up English pretty quickly. It took him a while, but I was really kind of the translator for the family. I didn't even speak Korean. I was just the one that was negotiating contracts, deals, because I was the only one that really spoke English. So I worked in the front of the house, the back of the house, at the janitorial service, everywhere. And it was just this constant work. Not to mention having to navigate going to schools. Going to school in Southern Arizona, there weren't very many minorities. I mean, it was Hispanic and, and white, but there was no Asians in my school at all. It literally, I don't think I ever ran into any other Asians.
Wow.
So that was difficult going there, learning English and then knowing Spanish, but then also being an Asian American in a predominantly white and Hispanic neighborhood and city.
Yeah, that had to come with so many challenges in and of itself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And again, and my brother and I speak about this every day, is everything that's happened. We've spoken about everything that's happened to us, obviously, as traumatic as it was, as negative as it was, it made us who we are. So a lot of who I am is because of that. And I honestly wouldn't change it. If I grew up spoiled, I'd be a completely different person than I am. I definitely raised my son differently so that, he was raised with love and support, but I'm in a different place than my father was at the same time. And so for me, being an Asian American in Arizona, I was picked on constantly, especially speaking Spanish. They're like, who do you think you are? And so I quickly at some point defended myself because I had always been in martial arts. And what I found was a lot of the people that were getting bullied in school would come and get me to help protect them. And so quickly at a young age, I was like, I actually have a power. I actually can control this and really defend other people that aren't being defended. So it just it's always kind of bred in me. Like, I try to help as many people as possible.
I love that. Okay. So many things I want to talk about there, but before I start with any more questions, I want to hear like where the journey led from there. You're in school, you're in Arizona. What led you from there to becoming the serial entrepreneur that you are today?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, having worked since I was 6, I remember distinctly around 6 or 7 years old, what I would do is I would get tips at the restaurant that I worked. My father never paid me, but I would be able to get tips from customers. So I would take whatever money I had, go to the grocery store, buy a bag of candy, and then take it apart and sell each piece for $1 each. So I was making a good profit. So at a young age, I'm like, oh, wait, I can make money. So I've always been very creative. So throughout from 6 on, even though I was working at the restaurant, I was always coming up with other business ideas and ways to improve kind of even the restaurant, the construction company, and so on. So it was something that I think I always kind of had, but it was that situation that helped kind of bring it out. And so, I went, kind of fast forward, played college basketball, found out it wasn't as good as I thought. Went back to school, changed my major, got into business. And it was from that point forward where I was supposed to go to medical school, Korean. I was supposed to go to medical school. My brother was supposed to be an attorney, but I knew I didn't want that. And so for me, at kind of a young age, I've always looked at business and started my first company when I first graduated.
Wow.
Sold it. And then got into investment banking at Morgan Stanley. And then from there, started another consulting company, sold that. And since then, it's just been this kind of turnover of building something, because I'm great at being a visionary and I'm great at creating efficiencies and creating kind of opportunities. What I'm not good at, and that's my weakness, is I get bored pretty easily. So once I hit that goal, it's hard for me to maintain it. So typically I just bring people in, or I sell it, I exit, and I move on to the next thing.
Wow. That is wild. Okay. So I know that there were some hardships along the way in your entrepreneurship journey, because ultimately that's kind of what led you to founding the group. So I want to hear a little bit about some of the struggles that you faced as an entrepreneur and that ultimately led you to creating the group. And I want to talk about the group and your goals there and what you've created there as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think I've went through a lot of different kind of struggles, but I think one was my first marriage. The first marriage, it was, and that's my son's mother. And, we have a beautiful son together, but the relationship was toxic. Again, I didn't realize I had left my father, who was a narcissist, for another narcissist. And her intention was to marry someone that had money. And so when I went through kind of the divorce proceedings, and, I had told you the story before, my son changed my life. I've always been a giver. I've always had this kind of mindset of helping and just being try to be a better person every day. But just holding my son at the hospital just changed everything. I mean, internally, it was just visceral. It was, my cells changed. It was something where I knew I had to do better and I had to be better for him. And then one of the things was I realized that the relationship wasn't good. The marriage wasn't good. It was under false pretenses. It was something that I couldn't continue to raise him in that environment. So I filed for divorce. During the divorce proceedings, I was able to build the company. I was in the process, or I sold the company, and it was a quite large sum. And through the whole proceeding, I just wanted my son. So I said, hey, whatever you want, just give me 50-50 custody of my son. And then, let's just raise our son, as amicably as possible. And what she wanted was 100% of everything. And it was interesting at that time. For the longest time, I saw my father, all his focus was money. And I was like, I'll never be like that. But then I realized that in my 20s, I was trying to prove that I could be better than him and make more money than him. And then when I did, that's what that money was. So to me, that money was kind of toxic.
Wow.
And so I agreed. Like on the spot, I was like, take it all. You know what? I just want 50-50 custody. Just take it. And so, I signed everything over. But the interesting thing happened, another kind of turn of events, was that all my friends from Scottsdale, because at this time I was living in Scottsdale, every single one of them disappeared on me.
Of course.
Because they knew I didn't have money anymore. They knew that I couldn't take them on trips. I couldn't buy them dinners. I couldn't loan them money. And it kind of hit me. And I'm like, but it hit me that it was my fault because I set it up that way, because my focus was, as much as I thought it was heart-based, it was really just financially based, and it was ego-based. And so I built that first part of my life based off of ego instead of relationships. And so a lot of what I am today is because of that. And so I've had to rebuild it, and and I've gone through, ups and downs and losing friends because of the money. And so for me, it's everything I didn't want to be. And I wasn't like my father, but there was parts of me that was still like him, like that focus on money. And I realized, look, what did it get me? It got me a divorce, but it got me my son. It got me a lesson to learn. So, I'm grateful for everything that I've experienced. But in this second chapter of my life, ever since my son is born, I just do everything differently. And the group is part of that. And it's something that I noticed that there was something missing when I was in investment banking. When I saw my father work, the focus was just money, make as much as you can, But I knew I was different. I knew there was something different. And then going through that divorce and going through the loss of friends, I realized there's something much more valuable than money.
That's so true. There's so much there. I think something that I really appreciate about you, and I think why we get along so well, is you always see the silver lining in everything. Throughout this conversation and every conversation I've had with you as we've connected over some of the similar trials and tribulations that we've had in life, is that you always find like if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have my son, right? Like the blessing of like, I got my son out of that situation, or I became the leader that I am because of having to work through my childhood, or, you always find the beauty. And I really want to make sure that the listeners hear that. I want to emphasize it because I think it's so important. We have a choice about how we respond to the things that happen to us in life. And I think it's so incredibly important. I think it's life or death personally. And I say that because we have no control over the things that happen to us in life. I mean, life is going to happen, and I'm saying this all the time, but we have control over the way that we respond to life that's happening to us. And when we respond as a victim, like, oh, this horrible thing happened and poor me, and I went through this awful thing, I think it's perfectly okay and beautiful and wonderful to share your trials so that people can learn from them. But when you're sharing them in a way that you're victimizing yourself through it versus saying, yeah, this happened, but I wouldn't change a single thing because it made me who I am today, right? Like it just shows that you've really been able to rise above those experiences and get the growth out of them, which I truly believe that everything that happens to us is for our own benefit. It's for our own growth. It's all a gift. And so to be able to receive that gift, I think we have to move past that victim mentality and be able to find the beauty in it, find the lesson in it, find the win in it, because there's always a lesson, there's always a win, there's always something beautiful to be gained from it. I also love that you take personal accountability. And I think that's something that everyone can benefit from in life. You see how in that situation where you're talking about losing all the friends in Scottsdale that you had when the money was gone, which I think so many people can relate to that. There's the people that are going to ride the highs with you, but they're not going to be there for the lows, and instead of blaming those people, you took accountability. You're like, I built it that way. I created it that way. And so I just love the personal accountability, and I love the positive outlook in your story. And I think that that's something that I find in a lot of people that have experienced success in life is they have that kind of mentality. And I think it's so important to have that. And I define success differently. I mean, of course, like everybody wants to be successful from a monetary standpoint. And I'm just like the next guy. Of course, I want to be able to be successful and take care of my family and have a nice life. But to me, monetary success is incomplete as a definition of success. To me, success is, how are your relationships? How is your health? How connected are you to the people that you love and yourself and all those things? So I just find that in people that are successful in all of those ways, from monetary success to physical, mental, emotional, family, friends, all the things, that's a similar thing that I see is personal accountability, no victim mentality, and always seeing the beauty and the good and the positive in life. So I love that. A little bit more about the group. So tell us more about what exactly the group is and what was your goal when you created that?
Yeah, absolutely. I started this trek of doing coffee with one new person every day, April of 2023. And, the reason why too is because of kind of the working with like corporate companies and just some of the business that I've done. It just seems so artificial. I've been a part of BNI, Provisors, chamber events, and there's places for that. But what I noticed, it was very transactional. It's very artificial. And to me, I honestly and truly love everyone. I'm so interested in everyone. People are so interesting. There's no two people that are alike. And so I just started asking random people, hey, would you like to do coffee with me? At first, it caught people off guard because they're like, well, what do you want? But I think I've gotten good at it where people are like, great, now I have this long list. And so the one coffee turned into two, which turned into three. And then now it's, it was at as much as 5 per day, but I peeled back to 4 per day. And the common thing that I found was that one was obviously people are so interesting, but the common thing I found was that a lot of people were struggling. There's a lot of people in, no matter whatever stature you're at, even monetarily or career wise or family wise, everybody struggles in a way. And it's so interesting to see and speak to all these people and just to see people that I've never been a judgmental person, but having this many coffees, I really am not one now because somebody that you think is perfect, their life is perfect, they're struggling.
Yeah.
And so one day after, I sat down with Nick McCoy, who's a good friend of mine. And, I'm like, hey, let's do this. You invite 3 people. I'll invite 3 people. Tell them don't bring business cards. They can be from any walk of life. And let's just have coffee. Let's have a conversation. We met at Lazy Acres. Conversation was amazing. Somebody ended up crying. And then they're like, hey, can we meet again? Can we invite more people? And it kept increasing. And every week for the first 8, maybe 9 meetups, somebody ended up crying because we were having personal conversations about their family, their wife, their business, whatever it was. And they felt like it was safe to really just kind of be vulnerable. And the interesting thing was we never talked business, but what ended up happening was everybody started working with each other and everybody's business started to flourish. So it started off being just a personal connection and it turned into a business. Like the business just naturally happened. So that's why I always say, and ever since then, we've outgrown. We went to Market Space and now we're at Good Anya, and we have anywhere from 130 to 150 people that show up. And it's amazing because I love seeing new people there because everyone says, I always ask them, how'd you hear about us? They always hear about from a couple different people, but everyone comes in like, oh, what is this networking group? I'm like, no. It's it's the non-networking group. And we'll just have a personal conversation, and like clockwork, someone will probably end up crying with even that many people. Somebody is vulnerable, ends up crying. We make connections, and everyone leaves just smiling. So I love that. It's grown into this movement, really.
It's funny how like it kind of came in and out of my circle. I had been on a couple of dates with somebody who had invited me when you guys were meeting back at Market Space, and I was like, no, thanks, I'm good. I don't do networking things. And then like maybe a year later, I had, more friends, like multiple friends being like, you got to come to this group thing. You got to come to this group thing. And I'm like, we meet at Gadonia. And I didn't even realize it was the same thing until you just said the Market Space thing. I was like, that's right. You guys used to meet there. But I started getting invited to this networking thing at Gadonia called the group. And I was like, no, I'm good. I don't do that kind of stuff. And then I got reeled in for the Halloween party. And you guys had like a Halloween party. Yeah. And so I went with a girlfriend of mine who's a part of the group, and ran into a lot of people that I knew that were already going. And then I met you, and I just met so many amazing people. And it was like not a networking thing. It was just amazing people. And as a result, I've interviewed multiple people on the podcast, that I met at that party. I've made friends with so many people, joined the pickleball group as a result of that. I've really flourished in a social way just from that one thing that I went to. And it's just so beautiful you've created. And I think about that a lot. I remember a couple years ago, I had an intention. I read a lot of books about like personal development and spiritual growth and stuff like that. And I was like, I want to start a book club. At the time, I think I had like 2 good girlfriends. Like I really didn't have a strong network of women in my life at the time. This is probably 3-4 years ago now. I was like, who do I invite to my book club? I think I had like 2 people, literally. And I was like, hey, do you guys want to join my book club? They're like, yeah. Who's in the book club? I'm like, you and me. That's it. That's all we got. And they said yes. And then, before I knew it, like, someone invited someone, and now we have this beautiful group of women that have been meeting. We just celebrated, I think, like our 3rd or 4th Friendsgiving together. And we were going around the table. I don't know how many women, 20 women or something like that, going around the table talking about like what they were grateful for. And, I cried so many times that night because a lot of the women were like, I'm so grateful for this group. I'm so grateful for this, all the books that we've read and all the growth I've experienced, being a part of this group. And I realized like that one choice that I made, that one small little choice, like I want to start a book club, that intention I had that I acted on, and like the growth that all these people have had as a result of that. And then the friendships that have been formed and how that's grown and evolved. And it's just been such a beautiful thing. And I think about the group in the same, you had this idea to do coffee, and that turned into this group meeting. And then that grew and grew and grew to what it is today. You guys are opening other chapters now outside of, I know you have like the one up here in North County. I know there's one down south as well. And I do foresee that probably continuing to just grow and expand. And it's just such a beautiful thing because it's impacted so many people's lives in a positive way. And I don't know about you, but for me, my life goal, I always say my life word is impact. And I want to leave the world a better place than I found it. And so it's just beautiful when we can create something that, just even if it changes and betters the life of one person, that's just so incredible. But I look at what you've already created with the group and how many people have benefited from that. And I'd say you're making quite the impact.
No, it's a passion project. And the thing too is it's kind of like going back to, anytime, everyone's struggling, everyone's going through something, but a lot of us, I think every one of us, when we go through it, it's the worst thing ever. And we kind of isolate ourselves and we feel like we're alone and we try to figure it out ourselves. And I know that's not the right way to do it, right? Exactly. And so to be able to have a community of people that are generally care about you and love you, that will support you. And it really is amazing because the thing too is you realize that whatever trials you're going through, someone else is going through something similar or someone's going through something worse. And, I don't discount, everyone's trauma is their trauma. And to be honest, the worst thing you're ever going to go through is the worst thing you're ever going to go through. So it's like, it's dark, it's hard to get out of. But when you have a good core group of people that you can rely on, that can give you support, give you different ideas, you feel like you can do anything. And so that's why I always try to tell people, I always, I told you my story about my friend that had committed suicide.
That's right.
And it's, again, that's another one of those things that imprinted on me, that no matter what it looks like, everybody struggles in a way. So be there for them. Be there for them, because at some point you're going to need them as well. So for me, the group, and yes, it's been amazing. I get messages all the time about people saying I found my tribe. It saved my life. And it's gratifying. And it's something that, to me, because the thing too is, monetarily, money doesn't last. When you pass away, it passes away. Your legacy is forever.
Yeah.
And the way, for me, again, it's because of my son. It's the way that you, Nastasha, have imprinted yourself on other people, the influence you have, the help that you've given people. For me too, that's my legacy. It is, I want to be able to continue my legacy through other people. And it's through love, it's through giving, and it's through helping.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And that's exactly what you're doing. Well, it's been such a pleasure having
well, life is
you.
good. I mean, again, we live.
Yeah. Sunny San Diego.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. And that's why I tell people, we live in such a beautiful area. Life is good. I mean, we have over 900 members of the group. So whatever you need, if you need an expert in something, we have it. And we have multiple people in multiple industries. It isn't a feast or famine mentality. Everyone generally is trying to support each other. So, I mean, honestly, whatever you're going through, sometimes when you're in a room of support and love, it makes that issue that you have so much smaller. And you feel like you have an outlet. You feel like you're heard. You feel, because that's one of the biggest thing is, as a child, a lot of times you're not heard. Well, and as you grow up, you kind of have that same mentality of, well, nobody ever hears me. But here in this community, it's beautiful, is we listen to each other, we help each other. And that's why I call Fridays Feel Good Friday, because people come relieved that they're there. And then I always tell people, there's no pressure to come. It calls to you when it calls to you. You can go to any of the other events, but when you need it, it's funny, when you need it, people do end up showing up, and then they realize, oh, this is why. And they get the help they need. Again, I'm going to continue this, whether it's one person that shows up or 200 people that show up, I'll still be there.
That's just so incredible. And I think it's also just with that many people, it's like you said earlier, when you're going through something big, sometimes it feels like you're the only person in the world that's experienced it. And you isolate, especially as an entrepreneur. I've been there more times than I'd like to admit, just curled up in my bed, crying myself to sleep because I just have this beast of a problem that I don't know how to solve. And I feel like it's just me against the world. And I'm all alone, and I'm not. And the truth is I'm not. And I have to remind myself that I'm definitely a person to isolate and feel like I've got to do it all on my own, because that was my early story in life. And so I white knuckle everything and I figure it out. But it doesn't have to be that hard. And I think it's so important to realize what you're saying. Everybody struggles. Everyone's been through something, and likely with a group that size, they've been through what you're going through, and they probably have some good advice. And if nothing else, just support. Sometimes we just need that moral support when we're going through it, a reminder that no matter what happens, no matter what we're going through, that we're okay. I know I have to do that with myself all the time. I have to stop and tell myself, I'm okay. I have my health. And if I've got that and my family, it doesn't matter what happens in the world, because I'm okay. And so, yeah, I think it's important to have community. And it's something that I'm still learning, even at this age and stage of life. I'm still learning how important it is to build community and have community and ask for help when you need it and reach out and show people when you're struggling. And I think sometimes it's the people that come off as the strongest, that seem like they've got it all figured out, that often just silently struggle the most. And so I think it's just a great thing that you're creating. And I think we all need it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. And it's also one of those things where, I'm sure you've experienced people that they have a bad attitude, or they seem they're always upset. Well, they're going through something. So, I always say, give them grace. You don't have to give that same energy, but just show kindness. It's a lot easier to be kind than it is to be hard. But the thing is, a lot of times that people, if they cut you off in traffic, they're going through something. It doesn't have to, don't let them imprint on you. And so for me, I think I kind of set the tone with the group, and Feel Good Fridays is that I don't shake hands. I love to hug. I love connection. So I love that. I love just to honestly just speak. I'll speak to anybody.
I love it. Okay. Well, how do people find you? Our listeners, if they haven't connected with you yet on social media or the group or any of that stuff, where do they find you? How do they get more information?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be opening up other chapters. We're going to do Oceanside in January, La Jolla, I think in February. So we're going to expand to other cities as well. But you can find us at thegroupcoastal.com. On Instagram, it's the Group SD. I also have a YouTube channel, The Heart of the Matter, with Junon, which I have my podcast, which I'm hoping you'll be on it soon, so we can hear your story and my listeners can hear. But yeah, but reach out. And the thing too is, and I always tell people, I may regret it, but so far I haven't. My cell phone number is on the website. So if you go to thegroupcoastal.com, text me. I am behind. I've got about 220 text messages to get back to, but text me and keep texting me. If you want to do coffee, I would love it. And we'll just have a conversation. It doesn't have to be anything else. There doesn't have to be an agenda. Let's just have coffee. But I love meeting new people. And if you need help, if you have a business or you're stuck in your career, reach out. If I can help you, I'm going to connect you to the right people. But for me, my life's goal is really to help everybody achieve their passion and follow through with it.
That is so beautiful. Well, you are such an incredible human being. And everybody listening should take June up on that offer and reach out for coffee. I know I did. And I made a new friend. And I'm so grateful that I did. June, thank you so much for being on today. It's been an absolute pleasure. As always, I love chatting with you. And I very much look forward to coming onto your podcast and continuing the conversation.
Thank you so much. I'm honored. This is great. And I can't wait to have you on.
Thank you so much for listening in. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could leave a review so we can reach more people. I might even share your review on future episodes. If you go to the link in the show notes, you can find and sign up for our newsletter so that you're notified when a new episode comes out. You can support this show by purchasing anything from the Choice Juicery online shop at choicejuicery.com. Or, of course, if you're lucky enough to live in San Diego, you can visit any of our 7 locations here in San Diego and Orange County. And please feel free to connect with me on social media at Nastasha McKeon. That's NASTASHAMCKEON. Don't forget that extra S. Or you can connect with us at the Choice Juicery Instagram at Choice Juicery. Thanks again for listening in.